Hi there. The subject of today's episode is the book spreadsheet method. Now, I first developed this method when I began to write fiction. I was working on a murder mystery with lots of characters and interesting locations and plot twists and so forth, and a timeline. And with any fiction book, of course, the plot has to make sense. In murder mysteries, it has to all come out in the end, so the timeline is vital. And I found that I kept getting the timeline mixed up, and I would have my heroine considering something that had happened when it couldn't possibly have happened yet. So I hit on the idea of a spreadsheet. And I put down the left-hand column, I put the names of all my chapters, and then just a brief snippet describing what happens in each chapter. For example, Gabby finds the body. Then I had a column for the timeline. And in this column, I put down the actual times, the days and the hours and so forth, when the different pieces of action took place. And if I looked at the whole thing in the end and found that it was out of order, it was easy at this point to reorganize it and make sure that it did make sense. So when I got the timeline sorted out, then I realized I could use it for other aspects of the book. For example, character sketches and new characters and when they enter the story and subplots and so forth. And then when that worked so well, I started using it also for my own non-fiction and eventually for my clients. So now when I start, for example, a ghostwriting project, I automatically use this method. But also for my book coaching clients, I introduce them to the spreadsheet method right at the beginning of the project. And with my help, they create the spreadsheet and send it to me. And that way, as we have our review calls, I can use this to make sure that they're on track. And if they veered off, I can bring it up as a subject for discussion. So it's a very useful coaching tool for me. So, for example, how could you use this? Well, in the last couple of episodes, I've been talking about stories and how you can use stories to amplify the material in your book. So you might have a spreadsheet with the left-hand column should always be a list of your chapters and your chapter titles. So then your next column could be, again, like mine, the content. So you just put snippets in there opposite each chapter that will remind you what the chapter's about, what is going to be in there. And then your next column could be for stories. So you would think of the stories that fit to illustrate your various points and just drop them in the appropriate place. I also suggest color coding for your spreadsheet, because this way you can have one color for stories and one color for theory and so forth. Maybe one column for research that you have to do. So when you finish your spreadsheet, you can see at a glance whether it's balanced or not. So it's a very useful tool. If you find that useful, I do suggest you try it. And if you find it useful, have at it. Because as I've said before, do anything you can that's in service of your book and your readers.